How can we use music as a catalyst for transformation? This is the Leaders of Transformation podcast. And on this show, we interview difference makers and world changers who are disrupting for good. And today, our guest is Andrew Sossin. He is the founder of Recovery Unplugged, which is a network of addiction treatment centers that offer a unique and innovative approach to drug and alcohol rehabilitation using the power of music in conjunction with evidence-based therapy. Really excited to have this conversation today and learn about what he's up to. Andrew, welcome to the Leaders Transformation.
Thank you, Nicole. It's really happy to be here and happy to discuss the work that we're doing.
Yes. Before we get into it, I do want to do a shout out to Justin Breen. He was on our show in episode 440, and we talked about visionary entrepreneurs and how they think, and Justin introduced us. So Justin, thank you so much for that intro. I always like supporting those and thanking those that support this show. And Justin certainly has done that with amazing guests like Andrew. And so thank you, Justin, for that. So Andrew, let's talk about this idea of mental health and substance abuse and how you're treating that with music. Kind of give us an overview on that.
Yeah, we started 10 years ago this month. Not what I thought I'd be doing with my life. We had several family members and friends battling addiction. And my wife and I were trying to do the best we could with limited knowledge and helping them. And so the original idea of this really came out of frustration in trying to help them in places that were doing the same old program that works about 10% of the time. Didn't know that at the time either, and was wondering why we kept having this revolving door that was costing, six figures to help. The joke at the time, which turned into a conversation, which turned into Recovery Unplugged, was I literally said it would be cheaper for me to open up my own treatment center for my friends and family than to keep paying for other ones. And a friend of mine who I met through at the Tony Robbins seminar over 20 years ago said, well, all right, if that's what you want to do, I want you to meet somebody, help create the mental health and drug court system in South Florida so that people would get treatment instead of jail. Had the idea behind using music as a catalyst for therapy. And that's how Recovery Unplugged started. And it was really the idea, that Paul Pellinger had with Marshall Geiser, Rob Harris, and myself, and a gentleman named Richie Stupa. Richie had this thing called Recovery Unplugged, where he would go into treatment centers for years. He had wrote the song. He wrote hundreds of songs, but one of the songs that was the impetus of this was the song Amazing that him and Steven Tyler wrote for Aerosmith. And when he wrote the song and started performing it, when he was on tour with them, all these people in recovery, back before we had text and social media, would send him letters that this was so impactful. The words and the song itself actually helped save some people's lives, that he kept the letters, and I've seen. And so when we first started this idea, I wasn't even sure the method behind it. But what we did is we took the power of music, combined it with evidence-based treatment, and created a program. And I said, all right, look, when we do this, we'll have my own, I'll put, not only my money where my mouth is, but my family and friends, what I believe in. And they were our first clients. And if I fast forward today, we have several family members that are 9 years clean, 8 years clean, and other friends as well that have been through dozens of programs that are alive and well and thriving today. And so once we saw what we were doing working, we went from, a small 25-person facility in Fort Lauderdale to growing, throughout the country. And, that's where we are today in Austin, Nashville, the DC metro area, South Jersey, and South Florida as well.
That's amazing. And when you talk about the statistics of how many people are, what's the success rate? And, it's just, to me, I think about what's that secret sauce, that thing that you put in, it's that music. Why is it that, maybe is a better question, is why is that such a catalyst for it? What does that do to fill that gap? Because I'm sure that these other treatment centers were using evidence-based theory, and therapy as well, but there's something that you added in the way you did it. So maybe talk a little bit about that secret sauce.
I mean, I believe for the most part, the people in this industry are trying to do the best they can to help everybody that comes through the door.
Yeah.
The challenge is, as we know, if you do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result, that's insane. But that's what we've been doing in behavioral health for 100 years. And so what we are doing, and again, just to be clear, there is no cure, there is no silver bullet, but our success rate now after a decade is over 50%, 50.3%. We have an outcome study from Nova Southeastern University here in South Florida. They've been studying our outcomes for the last 7 years. And as of September 30th, we've had over 13,000 people through our program whose lives we've positively impacted. And so how do we do that? So one of the things to think about is how music, no matter who you are, where you're from, your age, everybody's affected by music. Some people don't even realize it, but the first time you hear music is when you're in the womb. It's the mother's heartbeat. There is actually a rhythm to that beat that is ingrained in us. That's how we learn the ABCs. If you may not remember where you were yesterday, but you could sing the ABCs. Everybody could sing it in almost the same tune. You have every culture, every religion for thousands of years that have used song. And so what does music do? Music breaks down the defenses that we all hold up in everything we do, and it builds rapport. So at Recovery Unplugged, we learned very early on was that most people, if they go to a 28-day program, for example, which is what most insurance dictates, the first 27 days, they're fighting the fact that they're there, and they get about 1 day of treatment. It's unfortunate, but true. We have the exact opposite approach. We use music to really open people up from day one. So within 24 to 48 hours, people aren't happy to be there, but they're more open to working with their therapist, to being in the present, to understanding their situation, and to working through it. So it's almost the opposite effect. One of the examples that I love to give is when we find out that somebody's coming to Recovery Unplugged, we have to get all the basic. What's your insurance info? What medications are you on? What's your challenges? Great. But we also find out the type of music you love, you hate, what you associate to getting high, what you associate to happiness or sadness, and we get as much as we can. Sometimes we get a lot, sometimes we get just one or two things. But the first thing that person hears when they get into the car to come to us or when they show up is a song that they can relate to. Now, maybe it's a family member that told us, maybe it's them. And it's been probably a week or two. So when they first interaction with us, and I've seen this thousands of times now, wait a minute, this is my favorite song. And we say, we know. And so now that person, they feel seen, they feel heard, and what they say matters subconsciously. Doesn't mean that everything's great at that point, but it's the first layer of defense. It's the first chip at that wall that we're able to help break down. And again, 10 years, 13,000 people later, we see this works. Now that's just step one. We then take in different examples. So we have people that come to us for alcohol, for different types of substances, and now with Recovery Unplugged Mental Health Institute with just depression, anxiety, and PTSD. But on the detox side, what we found early on was people have to take medication. And we believe in medication-assisted treatment, MAT. I've been a fan of that since day one. Some people were 10 years ago, didn't want to replace one drug with another. We utilize medicine to help people get clean and sober so they can get off of it. But we believe in both MAT, medication-assisted treatment, and MAT, music-assisted treatment. The first time I said that to an insurance company, they literally laughed at me. And then when I came back 2 years later with a study showing 50 people that normally would have only had 5 clean, and we had 26. We got that answered the question quickly, and that was how we got one of our first in-network contracts. But in one of our detox settings, for example, we have vibration and sound rooms, whereby we still use medication. But if somebody's going to need 10 milligrams of Ativan or Valium, but we can now lower that to 5 milligrams and literally use sound frequency and vibration to calm their body down while they're detoxing, they win. Everybody wins. They're able to focus a little more. They're not so zonked out, and it's better for them both, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And so that's where we're able to use the sound and the frequency room in detox. Fast forward, when they're in our residential program, we have one of my favorite things called open mic, where people write the lyrics of their life. Now, 99% of all of our clients have no musical ability. About 1%, a handful of people every week, come from the music industry, but most people have no musical ability. And so when we have them write the lyrics of their life, it's one of the most profound ways of transformation. Again, they don't have to sing, they don't have to perform it, but just the act of writing that song, right, is extremely therapeutic. And then all of our groups have different, we have an open mic group, we have a mic check group, just even the names of it, all music related, and it all means something. One of the favorite things that I like to attend, instead of other people, is our Feel Good Friday group. So every Friday we go into the weekend where we have songs that Richie Supa, either he performed with one band or another over the last 50 years, or he wrote. We produced an album called Enemy, specifically for what we do. And these are all songs, some you've heard of, some you may not have, but they're all put you in a mindset to feel good going into the weekend, hence the Feel Good Friday concert. And so everything that we do ties into evidence-based treatment, where we use music as the catalyst for it. From the time you get there to the time you detox, to when you're a residential program. And when you leave, nobody ever relapses when they're with us, right? Obviously, it's when they leave. So what do we do to try and combat that? One of the biggest challenges when people leave treatment is they have to go back to real life. Their spouse, their work, their everything, all of the challenges of the daily struggle come in. So what we do during treatment, our therapists do, is we have them create playlists. And again, just listening to a song does not keep you clean and sober. But what it does do is that song, when 6 months after you leave rehab, you get into a fight with your spouse, your boss yelled at you, you're late for a meeting, and you want to go get a drink or buy dope. You play that song and it reminds you to stay in the present, call your sponsor, and go to a meeting. And so all we're looking for is positive triggers. There's negative triggers and positive triggers. We use music for the positive triggers. So that's, kind of an explanation of how we do what we do, why we do it, and why it works.
I mean, it's brilliant. It is brilliant because, I mean, who doesn't love music? We may have different preferences in terms of our music, but we all love music. And when you talk about sound therapy and frequency, there's all this talk about everything is energy. Well, everything is energy. Everything is sound, frequency, power, energy. It's all the same. It's all the same thing. So we're literally vibrating at a certain frequency. I had somebody on the show a few years back, Dr. Ginny Whitelaw, and she wrote a book called Resonance. And she was talking about this idea of sound, right? And how we resonate even like within our bodies. And if you imagine us being an instrument and you put cotton in that instrument, and then you're trying to articulate, your vision or whatever, or trying to come up with even what your purpose in life is, it's going to sound really flat, right? If that saxophone is stuffed with cotton, it's going to sound really flat. And that's what a lot of people are, is they're so stuck with all this stuff going on. And so when you can free that up, they resonate differently. So, and they resonate the way they were meant to resonate and show up in the world. And so even frequency in terms of healing on so many levels, it's fascinating. Now, you've told me that you have no musical, quote unquote, musical ability yourself. So how do you, obviously you talk about maybe your partner, Ricky, and what he brings to the table. How do you work with that, with music being such, like, you're the founder now and you really don't have any skill yourself. You just bring in the right people. How do you,
That's
do
the key
that?
is again, looking back to what wasn't working when I heard this, the way this could work, and we started it, and I saw my own family and friends getting and staying clean. We moved forward with it. And so, the idea behind it, I understood conceptually. Richie had been doing this for years. both in doing this 2-hour program at treatment centers. And then when we sat down with our medical director, clinical psychiatrist for 25 years. And, we have psychologists, master's levels, clinicians. And so we put together the program. It was, okay, here's the music aspect of Richie's songs. And then how do we make sure that there is an evidence-based approach with cognitive behavioral therapy and everything else that goes in traditional treatment, where we could combine the two, but it's not 1 + 1 = 2, it's 1 + 1 = 1,000,000, because the combination of the two has an exponential effect. And so that's where early on, yes, I did attempt to learn how to play the piano. That lasted for 6 to 8 months, and I could still, do my little practice setup, just to see how that would resonate with me. But no, I've been around and I've utilized music throughout my life. So I understood it as far as, I'm a child of the 80s. So, the Rocky soundtrack has been played probably more than anything else in my lifetime, in, everything from starting a day to going to the gym over the last 30 something years of my life. And so I've always used music myself. And then, Recovery Unplugged, I saw it make a profound change positively in other people's lives. And then for me personally, 2.5 years ago, I was in a almost deadly accident. I was in a barbecue explosion. I had 1st degree, 2nd degree, 3rd degree burns. Still have potentially permanent damage on my legs and my feet. And so when I was unconscious for days, but once I was conscious after the ICU, I put our theory to the test with myself. And so every day my hands were burnt, but I asked the nurse, I had different playlists that I was listening to myself, which aided in my own recovery. And I took it a step further. One of the things we learned very early on at Recovery Unplugged is not only does the music benefit our clients, it benefits our staff, it benefits our therapists, it benefits our team. And so we have music that our clients use in their recovery, but we have music in every one of our facilities all day based on the people working at that time. Because when they're in a better mood, when they're happier, when they're more present, everything flows better. So when I was in the hospital, I found out each of my nurses, there were 3 8-hour shifts, and I was up in the middle of the night, middle of the day. It was not a fun existence, but it happened. So I would have playlists for the nurses that were taking care of me during their shift, which allowed me to get better care. And I worked, amazingly. And it was funny because I had, one nurse who loved Enrique Iglesias, another nurse who loved Metallica. And I would literally have Metallica or Enrique Iglesias or, whoever it may be playing during their shift when they were in my room, and they were happier and they treated me better, not all subconsciously. So it was, could have chosen a lot of other ways to prove my point to myself, but it's something that I had to go through. Thank God, okay now, but I saw it in action. So it's really, universal how this could work. There's been decades of research on music and Alzheimer's, and there's been decades of research on music and autism, showing the positive effects for both people with Alzheimer's and dementia and the autism spectrum. And now what we've been doing for the last decade is showing how music can be a positive catalyst in people battling both addiction and mental health. And that's why after we were coming out of COVID, we said, okay, we have so many people contacting us that aren't battling a drug or alcohol addiction, but they're battling depression, anxiety, PTSD. And so we put our method to the test with the small groups. And now that's grown over the last year. We have our Recovery Unplugged online intensive outpatient program for mental health. And we're opening our first inpatient mental health facility here in Fort Lauderdale in about the beginning of 2024. And we're going to put one throughout everywhere we have Recovery Unplugged. We'll also have mental health as well.
Fantastic. Well, and I wanted you to talk about that because so often we think, I don't know anything about this. And it's almost like an excuse, right? I don't know anything about this. This isn't my expertise. So I I can't do it. I'm not the right person to do it. I actually recently just heard somebody say, oh, I don't think I'm the right person to do this. I have this idea, but, and, you just need to bring the right people around you so that you may have the idea and the vision, and then you bring the right people around you that have the knowledge and the expertise around that. And when you talk about using music to not just impact you, but also the people around you, that's so brilliant when you think about workplaces right now, which are so toxic. What if we used not just elevator music, but we actually used music intentionally, right, to shift people? And I think we would see music differently. A few years back, one of my mentors was teaching master facilitation in terms of creating spaces where people could experience transformation and using music to shift mood and all of that. And it does make you think about music differently rather than just what your preferences are as to how music makes you feel, and you become more present to that. And so what you were talking about, whether it's Iglesias or whether it's Metallica, there's also different moods that's creating.
100%.
And you can get to know a lot about a person even through the types of music that and what they're going through their music. So it's like a language, which is brilliant. I love it.
We also, one of our groups is how you teach being open-minded. So instead of saying you need to be open-minded, oh wow, okay, so what we'll do is we'll find lyrics. We'll find out somebody. The best easy example is you put two people in a room. One hates country music, one hates rap music. So we'll find a lyric in country music to a song that will associate to the person that hates country music, and we'll find a lyric to a song for the person that hates rap music and rap music. And we'll just read the lyric first, and they'll be like, oh, yeah, sounds like me or my life or what I'm going through. Then we'll play the one verse, and then we'll play the song. And so for the first time, somebody's like, oh, well, I actually relate to that. So it consciously and subconsciously allows people to become more open-minded to something that they quote unquote hate because it's a thing that they don't know much about. And there's profound effect on people's lives, that one specific group.
That's fantastic. Oh, I think about uses in leadership consulting and creating programs where you're trying to teach. There's so much behavior modification that is being taught in training rooms, and yet you can do something like that and it shifts people experientially, and they get the point, but they get it in a way that is not so intellectual and like I say, well, you should do this or you should think this. It's actually shifting the way they think in a different way. So yeah, experientially.
Part of it is, the mindset, and there's also, the physiology of actual moving. So every one of our at every one of our centers throughout the country, the team, right, the therapist, the utilization, they start their morning meeting with a 3-minute pump up group where they literally all stand up out of their chairs and move and dance however they feel comfortable with that. I spoke at the National Investment Banking Association conference a couple months ago. So you could assume the room. And so I brought one of our therapists who's also a musician, and we did this with the room. And for the first 10 seconds, people were like, eh. And then 30 seconds later, doesn't matter the song. I've seen this hundreds of times. When people start moving, they feel better. They feel better. Now, there's a time and a place, and there's a way to do it, and there's a method to it, and you can't do it for 10 minutes, and 10 seconds too short. So we try and keep it just a couple of minutes. That's how we start our days in all of our facilities, at every one of our groups. And so if somebody's having a real bad morning, doesn't mean that their day is going to go perfect, but it gets a little better. And we've seen that over and over and over again. And so with our teams, again, when we started this, small group of people, in Fort Lauderdale. And as we grew, the only way I knew this could work is if people within our organization was allowed to grow with us. And so if I fast forward to today, every one of the people that started my Austin facility worked in my Florida facility. The people that started my Virginia facility started in Austin. The people that started in Nashville started in Austin and Florida. And so what we watched is our culture grow from within. And it really does. It really does make me happy to see, my alumni director, and I would never break anybody's anonymity, but these are people that are public about their stories. But our alumni director 9 years ago was a client, and her mom thought she was buying her burial plot. She was going to die. Came through the program, got clean, wanted to work for us. She had to be clean for 2 years, came to work at a minimum wage tech. She's just turned 30. She's got a 16-person team and runs our alumni team for the country. And that's something that I'm proud that we've done with multiple people throughout the organization, where they were able to buy in to using music as a catalyst to make their lives better and save their lives. And now they're doing it for others. And so, within our organization, one of the things we realized is early on, when people leave, they kind of feel disconnected. And so we built an alumni team, which started with 2 people. Now we have 16 full-time people whose job every day is to call, well, for people that still talk on the phone, most of it is text, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook message, and the like, every single person that's ever been to Recovery Unplugged every week forever to check on them. And we have monthly playlists based on the time of the year, and we get people together we go to concerts together, and do things like that together. And so what it's allowed our team to do is grow themselves and be present with those that have been through us. And again, we use it all through the power of music.
I love it. So your centers that you talk about, having these multiple centers, are they corporate centers like where you are running them, or are they centers that, I'm just wondering in terms of scaling, logistic.
Everything is Recovery Unplugged.
Okay.
We don't franchise.
Yeah.
Been offered that many times. Again, my theory of life is I'll never say no to anything, and I'll meet with anybody at least one time. That's been my theory of my own life. And so at this point, we've been able to grow our culture from within and our leadership team from within. And so, at the moment, do I believe there could be a Recovery Unplugged in every state? Yes. Do I believe that if that happened, the quality could be diminished? And so that's why we've never done that model. What we've done to this point is, we started with one place in 2013. We opened up Austin in 2016. Excuse me. We opened up Northern Virginia at the beginning of 18, and then Nashville opened right before COVID, which was fun. So we've done it slowly. We've done it methodically, and we've done it where we've gone, we've brought people from within the organization to those other locations, so that when you go to Recovery Unplugged, no matter which one you go to in the country, you're getting the same quality experience.
Right. So you don't have to have one in the city or locally. Yeah. So I love this, Andrew. I mean, this is so inspiring when I think about the potential of this. You mentioned, I think, that you made some changes recently in terms of accessibility to this treatment through insurances and all that. Maybe talk a little bit about that as we wrap up, and sort of what programs you offer and how people can get involved.
So for the first many years, we were an out-of-network facility. It was expensive to come to us because we have a very high client to staff to client ratio. It's very expensive to run. What we realized that during COVID was the only way for us to be able to just help as many people as possible was to go in network with every insurance company, and then allow people to access us for the least out of pocket as possible. So really over the last 2 years, we're in network with almost every major insurance company. We're in network with TRICARE for active military. We're just about going in network, or we are with some states, going with VA, and we are in network in 2 states with the other 3 behind it for Medicaid. And so now the goal is anybody anywhere that needs help, both for mental health or addiction, inpatient or outpatient, can access us and have it covered by whether they have, Medicaid or regular insurance. What we also did, which has given us exponential opportunity to help people, is through our virtual program. And so we added our online intensive outpatient, which was, at first 5 people online, and now we have a couple hundred people a day through multiple groups, whether it's for mental health or addiction. And then we break it down. We have a first responders group. We have starting next week, all of our programs online will be for people who have Spanish as their first language. They'll be able to access. It's very important that people are able to have that ability to talk in the way that they feel. So we'll have our Spanish language programs rolling out next week. And so, that's the key now is, it took us 10 years. We used to have 20 to 25 people we treated a month. Now it's 450 to 500 people a month. And so, my goal is to get from 10 years to get to 13,000, but I'd like it to be 100,000 people who we've positively impacted, over the next couple of years, both virtually and in our centers. And so if anybody wants to be able to check us out or see how we could help them, recoveryunplugged.com. 24 hours a day. I have a 24-hour life-saving center. Again, I'm old school. I call and like to talk, but if somebody wants to just go on our text and chat with somebody all day, they can do that as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, I love this. And I think you might want to get ready for, as more and more people hear about this, get ready for a lot of people, a lot of demand. So that's, I think that's going to come. So yeah, that's awesome. Because I think as people start to realize there's a different way, and there's on so many levels, people are looking for different, better, more effective ways of getting treatment, of creating transformation, of bettering their lives. And this is just, such a tremendous way to do it. So thank you for that. And when you're talking about military, and there's so many people across the board, all the statistics, I'm sure. So yeah, get ready for the onslaught of people.
We are ready.
Yeah.
That's one thing, is that we have the ability tomorrow. I have people ready to go, ready to help. We have more people that are ready to come on board, and I try and balance it out with being ready for those that need the help and being able to find the people, or having the people find us. And that's been just really the key, and why I'm grateful to you for Justin to introduce us, and for you to have me on the show, so that more people know that we exist. That's really the key right now, is allowing, because we have in network and all of the different opportunities for people, anybody that works for a big company, HR directors, EAPs, unions, anybody anywhere can now access us, which is different than it was a couple of years ago. And so the more people know we exist, the more lives we could positively save.
Yes. All right. recoveryunplugged.com. That's where to go to get information on this. And I always say, leaders of transformation, take action on something today. I believe that every single person that's listening and or watching this knows someone that is either at least one, that is going through some sort of substance abuse, and or mental health issue that needs some support. And so I'm going to just encourage everyone that's listening and or watching to, number one, think about them, maybe make some connections there in terms of getting them connected to recoveryunplugged.com, or sharing this episode with them, somebody who is in a company working in an EAP program, or HR person, even getting it out there. Just the word of the day is share this, not just because we want to reach more listeners and all that. It's not about that. It's about being able to let people know what's available, what's possible, so that they can take advantage of it. And so we encourage you to do that. We'd love to hear your stories. If there's anything we can do to support you along this journey, let us know. leadersoftransformation.com. You can reach out to us there as well. If you have any questions, of course, Andrew's, you can reach out to him directly at recoveryunplugged.com. And we'd love to hear your stories. Of course, you can also find us on social as well. And so thanks for being here. And we look forward to seeing you next week on another episode of the Leaders of Transformation.
Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure. Yes, thank you.